House File Number 2292, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to early childhood, the second engrossment.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto, to explain House File 2292.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and members. It is a good day to get all Minnesota children off to a great start. And when I say a good day, I know it's nighttime. I'm talking about the past 24 hours, 24-hour period. So it was just about 24 hours ago that we passed the transformational investment in housing, the housing budget. And of course, that great start has to start with that foundation of a stable and affordable place to live. And then just a few hours ago, I guess just an hour ago, we passed the transformational budget for education, pre-K to 12. That's such a critical part of that great start. And members, now we're going to be hearing the two bills that comprise the Children and Families budget. This is, again, about giving kids the foundation that they need for success in life and for all of us. This is the next step. And I want to make sure that we note the connection between those prior bills and this budget bill, noting how that child having that basic place to live, but if they don't, we want to make sure that we are ensuring that any homelessness the child experiences and the family experiences is brief and is non-reoccurring, and that we make sure that there's supports from the families experiencing that. If the family is lacking food, we want to make sure that the child has food. In addition, now we make sure we've got meals at school. We passed that, correct? But making sure that we have coverage for outside of school as well. If a family is going through economic hard times, and making sure that those critical early years leading up to kindergarten are also getting kids off to that great start that they need as well. So that's what these two bills are about. The Children and Families budget is split into two different bills, and the bill before you right now, members, is House File 2292, which is the Department of Education portion of the Children and Families budget. That really is focused on early care and learning. This budget it mostly consists of investment in early learning scholarships aimed at the critical earliest months and years, at infants and toddlers, those very low incomes and those with vulnerabilities, a homeless or highly mobile, a teen parent, incarcerated parent. These are kids we want to make sure that we're really supporting and giving them the development and support that they need and that their families need, and that's what the scholarships will do. And then also to make sure that we're providing the funding for the pre-K slots that Chair Joachim talked about in her bill, so that as those kids become age 4, if they're one of the 9,000 who are fortunate enough in our education bill or other pre-K funding we have to have pre-K in school, that we have that as well. And then there are several other pieces, infrastructure for Head Start. We've got increased developmental screening aid. And something I'm very excited about is providing a kindergarten readiness assessment statewide so we can get a sense as to the experiences kids have had before entering school and make sure that they are ready to go as they're doing that. There's a lot of other stuff as well in the bill. I'm sure that will come out as we go along. And I'm going to save my thank yous and a lot of other conversation for the second bill, which is the bill regarding the human services portion of the budget. Let's get into a discussion about the education bill and keep on moving the rest of the evening. I look forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Hudson moves to amend House File Number 2292, the second engrossment. The amendment is coded A2.
I recognize the author of the amendment, the member from Wright, Representative Hudson, to explain the A2 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chair Pinto. I want to start off by diverting just for a second to Representative Hicks isn't in the room, but I want to apologize to Representative Hicks because I had committed to her prior to us gaveling in this morning that I was going to do my level best to influence my caucus to have us done with our business today before the Ramadan break, and mission failed. So sorry about that. But perhaps if we outrun the return trips of some of our members, we'll be able to get through the business that we have left for the evening in relatively short order. So the A2 amendment would make improvements to our proven successful early learning scholarship program to increase access for more families and their children. What it would do is increase the household income eligibility to 225% of federal poverty level to serve more families. It's going to expand the child age range from birth to age 5 in order to cover more children. And it's going to set the scholarship amount to be greater than either of the two CCAP reimbursement rates or the average statewide general education revenue per pupil, whichever one is larger. It's going to prohibit the Commissioner of Education from differentiating scholarship amounts based on provider type. so that family child care providers are not arbitrarily given a lower level of scholarship. And this is going to kind of be a recurring theme in our discussion here tonight, is that family child care providers have been left behind. They've been falling through the cracks. Early learning scholarships are something that we support, and we're thankful for the degree of support that we've had from the majority on those. We think we should lean more into those because they are portable, they are flexible, they empower parents. And parents are the ones who have the best interests of their children in mind at all times and understand the needs of their children to the highest degree, and have the most skin in the game in terms of discerning who should be taking care of their kids. We can increase access and lower cost of families through an existing scholarship program that is not constantly under suspicion of fraud and abuse, and we'll talk more about those concerns later, but for the time being, I will present that as the A2 amendment. Thank you.
Discussion to the A2 amendment. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe, Representative Hudson, that this was offered in committee, and as I said then, there's a lot to like in here in terms of where we should be going in the long run. So increasing income eligibility for our various programs for early care and learning, hallelujah, totally agree. We know that families are struggling with child care and early learning. Quite a bit up the income scale. We know that our opportunity gaps that are in our K-12 system start in the earliest months and years, so absolutely. I agree that we should be increasing the amount per child that is paid out. It is not sufficient to pay. We know that there's a huge need there. The problem with this, though, is that if we did this right now, what this would mean is that there'd be many fewer children who would actually be receiving early care and learning. And that is not what we want to do. This would take away the prioritization that I referenced before about those kids who are the most vulnerable, those with teen parents, those who are incarcerated parents, those homeless, highly mobile, et cetera. And I'll say the brain development, the most important years, it's the earliest months and years that are absolutely most important. That's the reason we're prioritizing infants and toddlers. We need to be supporting families all the way on up, but we want to be making sure that we're supporting as many families as possible. I'm concerned if we do this, we're going to be supporting significantly fewer families. And so I very much am going to take this as an endorsement of a long-run approach. Let's work together to get significantly more funding in these programs to help support more families. I love it, I love it, I love it. But for now, let's make sure we can at least support these families we've got here. Thanks.
The author of the amendment, Representative Hudson.
I'm going to choose to engage in selective hearing and just say he loves it, he loves it, he loves it, and ask that members support this amendment and vote green. Thank you. I'm asking for a roll call.
Representative Hudson requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. The clerk will take the roll on the A2 amendment. The clerk will close the roll. There being 59 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail. The A2 amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Kresha moves to amend House File Number 2292, the second engrossment. The amendment is coded DE4.
I recognize the author of the amendment, the member from Morrison, Representative Kresha, to explain the DE4 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, I'd like to request a roll call and see if there's 15 members in
Representative
the
Krisha
chamber.
requests a roll call vote. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call vote. Representative Krisha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the DE4 amendment is an attempt at compromise. Most of the underlying bill remains intact, including changes to the early childhood screening, Head Start, early childhood grow your own programs. The amendment removes some provisions relating to requiring pre-kindergarten and preschool educators to be licensed by the state, and instead of funding nonprofits, we direct more of that funding to our parents through a modest increase in the early learning scholarships also funded within the bill. Early learning scholarships, the amendment increases access for early learning scholarships by raising the household income to 225% of the federal poverty level and making more children eligible through the expanded age eligibility. It provides fairness to our providers, including the family child care providers, by ending the arbitrary differences in scholarship accounts based solely on provider type. On this, we add more duties for the State Advisory Council on early learning, or early education and care, and we ensure that parents have a decisive role in choosing a provider or program setting that best meets the needs of their children and families and respects family values and cultural heritage. And with that, members, I ask for a green vote, and I would hope that the author would find this friendly.
Discussion to the DE4 amendment. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I really do appreciate the endorsement of investments in early care and learning for families. That's really important. I do want to direct members' attention to a letter that's been distributed. I believe it's gone out to everybody of the Minnesota Business Partnership, endorsing both early learning scholarships and also the kindergarten entry assessment that would be cut from this in this amendment. This, they are saying, is quite important, and as supporters of early learning scholarships, they are saying that the removal of that piece alone would be a significant problem from this to lead all. In addition to that piece, which again will help us to understand how early care and learning programs have been operating, I guess I have a sense in general that's something I think from the other side of the aisle you very much appreciate and would not want to cut. So we want to make sure we keep that. In addition, there are a series of pilot programs and a number of exciting initiatives that are included in the bill that this would cut, including, well, a series of proposals. I was going to perhaps have some colleagues talk about them. We'll see if they're going to be doing that. But members, there is significant funding for early learning scholarships in this bill. That's terrific, and we can do some other things as well. We're able to do that all together, and so I'd urge a no vote, but again, appreciate the endorsement of investments in this area. Thanks.
The author of the amendment, Representative Krisha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so what you're saying is we have a chance. So, members, I hope you vote green.
The clerk will take the roll on the DE4 amendment. The clerk will close the roll. There being 58 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail, and the DE4 amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 2292.
Third reading. I recognize Representative Coulter, the member from Hennepin.
Well, thank you, Speaker. Members, 80% of brain development happens by age 3, and 90% happens by age 5. Those of us who are on the Children and Families Committee have heard those statistics, it feels like every time we've met. But I just want us all to think about that for a moment. By the time we turn 5 years old, 9/10 of all of the brain development that we will experience in our entire lives has already happened. And those of you like me who have young kids at home, you see this kind of development every single day, and it really is nothing short of remarkable. This budget matches that remarkable development with remarkable investments in our youngest Minnesotans. And it is a loud and proud statement that we are focused on getting every kid in Minnesota off to a great start. And I just want to briefly touch on three really important pieces of this bill. Support for ECFE. Early childhood family education is one of the truly unsung heroes of our education system for parents and kids. And this budget ensures that ECFE programs have the funding and support they need to succeed. As one former ECFE parent put it, who I might add is a member of this body, ECFE saved my kids from me. Updated funding for developmental screening. So school districts are required to screen young children for a variety of physical and intellectual factors that may affect learning. But, and stop me if you've heard this one before, we don't fully fund that mandate. And in fact, we haven't updated the funding formula since 2008. This bill changes that. And the final piece that I want to talk about is the one that we have already spent some time talking about here tonight, and actually makes up the bulk of this bill, early learning scholarships. And I am so proud to be the author of this provision. This bill nearly triples funding for early learning scholarships, opens them up to younger kids, and permanently prioritizes the kids who need the most help. The changes in this budget would mean that thousands more Minnesota kids would be able to access these scholarships, and critically, that they would be able to access full day, full year care. That means less stress and greater stability for parents, for providers, and most importantly, for the kids. Early learning scholarships represent an opportunity to support something that shows not only that we care about our youngest Minnesotans and want to get them off to a great start, but that we know a good investment when we see one. They focus on children who are in the most need, take advantage of high-quality programs in our communities, and ensure that parents have the flexibility to do their work and live their lives. And if that weren't enough, we know that there is a huge return on this investment. And I want to echo Chair Pinto and say that there clearly is significant support for greater investment in our early care and education system in this body. And that's really, really heartening to me. And it's something that I'm looking forward to working on with anyone who will do the work with me for many years to come. In this budget and the other bill that we're going to hear in just a moment, we are taking the best possible steps to support and prepare our youngest kiddos for the best possible future. And that's something we should all be proud to vote for. I know I am. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Lee.
Thank you, Speaker Wolgamott, excuse me. Members, the hour is late, so I will be brief. As a proud alum of Minnesota's Head Start program, I stand before you today to urge a green vote, because voting means investing in the future of all Minnesota's children. And voting green means you believe that every child deserves a great start, regardless of their zip code. That's right. The funding in this bill will support programs like Head Start, which serves children and families in all of the 87 counties in Minnesota. I know I was incredibly lucky to participate in Head Start, but the future of children should not depend on luck. We must be intentional about how we spend our dollars, and that is why I'm so proud of the investments we made in this bill and the other education bills before and after this bill. And so I hope that we'll see a green board, and with that, I'll yield back.
I recognize the member from Wright, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the points that was expressed early on in the Children and Families Committee that I think kind of centers this side of the aisle's thinking regarding this issue is the irreplaceable nature of parents. There's just no replacing that relationship and that incentive for value. There's a lot of parents in the room. Nobody cares about your kid more than you care about your kid. And that's not a flaw, right? If like kids generally. I see some other kid that's not my kid. The fact that I value my child more intimately to a higher degree than just a random child on the street. That's not a bug, that's a feature, right? Parents uniquely, because of the investment of time, because of the connection, whether it's biological or chosen, adoption, different situations where people find themselves in a parental situation, that connection is deep and it's irreplaceable. And our belief is that that's the connection, that's the value that ought to be enhanced by our approach to early childhood education. And so that is why we continue to focus on early learning scholarships. And I very much appreciate, and I said this in committee as well, I appreciate Representative Coulter's bill. I think it's the right approach to the problem. It's all this stuff we have around it that we have an issue with over here on this side. And so we prefer that approach. We want early learning scholarships because we think it addresses the need for child care and early education. We want to empower parents. We want child care to be parent-directed. We often refer to these as kiddie vouchers. And we do that because they promote a culture of educational choice for preschool and early education. Scholarships also empower parents as consumers to drive market decisions rather than bureaucrats or central planners. And I think that right there is the nut of the issue, is that when you put parents in control of who is going to be taking care of their child, what the options are that are available, this shapes the entire market. Because when you have an approach that determines what the options are for parents, you're removing that critical quality control component of having dollars in your pocket that you get to decide how they're spent and where they're spent, and assessing that value directly. And this is just the difference between the two sides of the aisle in terms of how we look at the concept of a great start. And these things keep coming up in terms of having similar goals, having the same goal, but just disagreeing regarding the best methodology to get there. For the majority, it seems to be that Great Start means a child surrounded by unionized caregivers. On our side, we believe that a Great Start means a child nurtured by empowered parents who have the interest of their child at heart. That's the contrast here, and because this bill doesn't lean in that direction of empowering parents, I'm going to ask members to vote no. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Katiza Wattoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chair Pinto, for all your leadership in this area, helping all of the children in Minnesota get off to a great start. It's been an honor serving on the Early Childhood Education, Finance, and Policy Committee with you over the last 2 biennium, and now as we take on ownership of more issues that impact the children and families across the state of Minnesota. It's been an honor on this committee as well. It should be of no surprise to anybody that childcare and early learning are essential to our economy and our society. It allows parents to work, employers to expand, and our children to thrive. And our early care and learning industry is not a one-size-fits-all model. So when we think about our huge expansion in scholarships, thank you, Representative Coulter. I've carried proposals for scholarships in the past too. When we think about helping our child care providers who provide child care assistance or accept those payments to families, helping them earn slightly closer to what they're worth in the work that they're doing, raising the children of Minnesota and educating them. There are so many pieces of this puzzle, and it's been really exciting to see the different proposals that have come before us in this committee and really think through just how we are giving parents and children the choice of what is best for them. So all of this kind of runs together, and I'm thrilled to support this bill. It has a little piece of something for everyone. And if scholarships are the only part that you support, that's okay. We're making a huge investment in that, and you should vote green. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pinto, excuse me. I just have a couple of questions. If he would yield to 2 questions, please.
We yield for one question at a time, but Representative Pinto will yield to a question. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On line 11.14, there's a change in the family eligibility from 185% of FPG to a rate specified in Section 119, Statute 119B09, Subdivision 1. Can you just basically give me the difference and what the difference is there between what used to be eligible and the new eligibility?
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Nadeau, thank you so much for highlighting that. That's actually terrific. So those lines, folks, on middle of page 11, what that does is to align the income eligibility for scholarships with the income eligibility for CCAP, the Child Care Assistance Program. Just a reminder, members, or informing you if you aren't aware of this, we have so many different ways of providing support for families for child care and early learning. Every one of them is deeply underfunded. Every one of them, it's a really fragmented, challenging system. We've been doing our best over a number of years. This is one small step forward to try to bring some harmony and synchronicity to that system. So if you're a child care provider, you've got multiple income streams coming in as you're trying to provide support for low-income families. This way, at least the income eligibility lines up. This would change the income eligibility not very much in terms of the dollar amount, but it would mean that instead of having to figure out the different calculations, the two would line up to be the same amount of money.
Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Representative Pinto. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Pinto answer one more question?
He
for
will
me?
yield to a question. Representative Nadeau.
And if you want to address this, I really have two. I have one main one, but just to follow up on the first one first. Is in your mind, or did the department calculate if there was going to be a change, like a significant change in the families eligible by making that change from 185 FPG to the CCAP eligibility? It seems to me that there's a significant difference there. And I'm wondering, and to me, I think that number is diminished. It will make less families eligible for this. And I just want to make sure that that's not the case.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks, Representative Nadeau. So I've got the two different income eligibility pages in front of me, which I'm quickly trying to figure out. But I would say it really is a quite small difference. I do know that. It might take me just a minute if you've got another question to be able to tell you two different dollar amounts. But it's not much of a difference. It really simplifies without making a significant change in terms of the impact. I mean, what it does is just makes everything work better for everybody. I guess all I can say.
Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my final question has to do with Section 15 of the bill. Starting on Section 15.23, this is the financial review. I have some experience, a little bit of experience with nonprofits and grants. And I'm wondering if this language that has been added in here would, and I'm not trying to play politics with this. We've had a little bit of fraud, a bit, in the past. And was this language added to try to ensure that's more difficult for a fraudster to actually try to defraud the state, number one. And number two, this language in here, would it be effective in preventing that from happening? And the reason that I'm asking is that this is pretty boilerplate stuff in contracts. You're providing an I-90, you're registered with the state, it shows you're exempt, it's got authorities in here. There's nothing in here that's of real significance that I would submit that is really outside of what we already do when we contract with nonprofits to provide services. So I'm wondering if you think this language would make it more difficult for a fraudster to actually take our money and not deliver those services. That's my question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Pinto, will you yield to that question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks,
Representative
Representative
Pinto.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And actually, members, this is probably useful for folks to look at. Bottom of page 15 and then on to page 16. The language Representative Nadeau has highlighted is actually language being added to every one of the budget bills that are advancing through the chamber. In every budget bill, you're going to see this language providing for a financial review of nonprofit grant recipients. And the goal is, of course, to tighten procedures. You may describe it as boilerplate in contracts, but it has not been boilerplate in the system before, leading up to this point, under Republican and Democratic governance, and it's important to all of us, I would think, that this would be included. And the goal, of course, is it's as part of an effort to address program integrity concerns. You want to make sure that at the start, when somebody's applying, that there's a review. That's what this does. You're going to see in House File 238 coming up, there being some tight controls on the back end, that if there's a problem that's found in one area of state government, we want to make sure that somebody can be cut off in other areas of state government. So this is a key part of the process. There's a number of things, but what's terrific is being added to all the budget bills. And I do have an answer to the other question you asked about income limits. The current income limit for a family of 4 for scholarships, $55,500 per year. That will actually change slightly for a family of 4, and I think this is different. In this case, $55,266. So you've got maybe a couple $100 difference there in terms of income. Thanks.
Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Pinto.
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Perez-Vega.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and big shout out to my amazing chair and St. Paul mentor, Representative Dave Pinto. It's been such a great honor to be with a fellow musician on this Children and Families Committee who recognizes the importance of how our kids want to learn. I was one of those kids that wanted to learn in a different way, who spoke 2 languages by the time I was introduced to introduction, and who battled literacy because of that. But I recognize having 2 languages as a privilege and a connection to roots. And those roots are drafted in rhythm and sound. And literacy can be taught through rhythm and sound. You can learn how to read and you can learn how to count by the magic and the motivation of what is music. It is amazing to see that through this committee and through the work that we're doing here, that we're going to be able to expand the commitment to how children want to learn. I was one of those kids that was dedicated to want to expand how I needed to learn, how I really did need to learn, because I was being blocked by curriculums that did not include music and the arts. All right, so when we talk about music and learning through music and preparing our kids, it's very symbolic to the work that I do here and why I'm here, right? And I talk about how the appropriation of this funds is going to grow. I remember being a 19-year-old being invited to talk about how we can advise education at early learning and through music and cultural awareness. The expansion of this program has developed such a great leadership, not just in the state of Minnesota, nationally and globally. We look at the culture of hip hop turning 50 years old this year. When I was sworn into this space to represent District 65B, the seats and where you're sitting in, all right, there is a rapper who is a representative, and that is because they're a kid who learned from their drum of their Borinquen tribes, okay, from their West African to Central African tribes of Nigeria and Ghana to the Congo, and in similarities to talk and communicate with our East African brothers and sisters in our classrooms. That is through the development and programming of learning with music. So we're championing the growth of how our kids are going to talk about theory, talk about how they can be committed to music theory from kindergarten into high school. When we look at what rhythm is, it's time. So the time is here, the time is now to make sure that we are incorporating music in our curriculums. And that's just what this committee's brought to the table. That's just what McPhail is providing, a global impact, so that folks that are tier 1 or teachers that are now gonna be able to build their portfolios to excel to tier 3 can do this right here with Learning with Music, and our kids advancing in literacy and in mathematics and becoming whatever they want to be. Thank you.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks, members, for the discussion. And I hope that we can all recognize the need for these investments, that we're going to be helping out so many young children they're going to have an impact for the rest of their lives and the impact on all the rest of us, and recognizing how much more we need to do. I'm so excited to be advancing this bill, and I'd be honored to have your green vote and honored to move on to discussion on the second part of our Children and Families Budget Bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members.
The clerk will take the roll on House File 2292. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 71 ayes and 57 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.